The restaurant buzzed with evening noise, clattering plates and cheerful conversations filling the room. Among the rushing faces moved a tired waitress, worn shoes, gentle smile, and kindness that never seemed to leave her, no matter how rough life became. While she worked, she noticed a small boy standing outside the glass, eyes empty, stomach hollow, the quiet kind of hunger that spoke louder than words. Without hesitation, she wrapped some food, paid from her own pocket, and slipped it to him with a soft whisper to eat before the world grew colder. Before gratitude could warm the moment, the manager stormed forward. His voice cut through the restaurant like a blade, accusing her of stealing, embarrassing her in front of everyone as customers stared in awkward silence. She tried to explain the child was starving, that it was the right thing to do, but compassion meant nothing to him. Rules, control, pride. He fired her instantly, tearing away her dignity with a single sentence. The boy fled, staff stayed silent, and she walked out with tears she refused to let fall. The restaurant returned to noise, yet a shadow lingered, because tomorrow wasn't going to arrive quietly for the man who thought cruelty was strength. Someone was coming back, and his silence would speak louder than punishment for them.
Night settled differently for her than it did for everyone else. While others went home to warmth, she returned to a small apartment where bills sat like quiet threats on the table, and hope tried to survive inside tired walls. She had no savings, no security, and yet she had always carried goodness, like it was something she owed the world. She remembered staying late for customers, covering shifts, smiling through exhaustion, telling herself kindness still mattered even when life refused to be kind back. Losing her job meant losing stability, maybe her roof, maybe meals, but it didn't change who she was. Feeding that child had felt right, and the right thing never needed apology. Back at the restaurant the next morning, things pretended to be normal. Laughter returned, plates moved, but something stayed uneasy in the air. Co-workers whispered. Some regretted staying silent, others feared authority too much to speak. The manager strutted with inflated pride, convinced he had defended policy, convinced cruelty disguised as discipline made him powerful. Nobody knew what waited ahead, but the building itself felt like it was holding its breath. Because that morning, a car was already pulling up outside, and the person stepping out didn't believe in silence, didn't believe in rules that killed humanity, and certainly didn't believe kindness should ever cost a heart its livelihood. He was returning with purpose, with memory, with authority, and every second moved the story closer to the moment when truth would stand in front of pride and demand an answer with no mercy for arrogance.
The restaurant opened as usual, sunlight slipping across polished tables and artificial smiles. The manager walked with the confidence of someone convinced he had done the right thing, proudly believing rules made him powerful. He greeted customers louder than necessary, spoke to staff with clipped authority, and carried himself like nothing could shake him. But the uneasy silence in the team's eyes hinted otherwise. They remembered kindness punished, remembered a hungry child turned into a problem instead of a life, and a guilt sat quietly between every heartbeat of the building. Then the door opened. A luxurious car had stopped outside earlier, and now its owner stepped in, the real owner, the one whose presence changed air before he even spoke. Conversation slowed, staff straightened. Even the arrogant manager swallowed, unsure why fear suddenly pressed against his chest. The owner scanned the room, noticed the tension, and asked calmly what had happened while he was gone. No one answered at first. Eyes avoided his gaze. Truth trembled quietly between every hesitant breath. Finally, a brave voice told the story. A hungry child, a compassionate waitress, a cruel public firing. Every word washed color from the owner's face until disappointment replaced calm. The manager tried defending himself, hiding behind policy and control, insisting he had protected business. But the owner didn't interrupt. He only listened, silently weighing humanity against arrogance, and every second thickened the atmosphere, building toward a judgment no one could escape, especially the man who believed kindness was weakness instead of power, about to stand right in front of him.
A calm silence followed, the kind that doesn't need volume to demand respect. The owner finally stepped closer, his presence alone stronger than every argument the manager was trying to build inside his head. Instead of shouting, he turned to the staff and asked one question. Was it true that a starving child was turned away, while a woman with nothing still chose to give? Every nod he received only deepened the disappointment in his eyes. Then he asked where she was now, and someone quietly gave him her address. Without hesitation, he left the restaurant, leaving the manager drowning in the uncomfortable weight of his own choices. When the door opened again later, he wasn't alone. The once fired waitress walked beside him, nervous but humbled, still unsure why she had been brought back or what awaited her. She kept her gaze low until he gently encouraged her to stand with pride. Then his voice filled the room, not loud, but firm with truth. He spoke of humanity, of compassion, of the difference between running a place that sells food and leading a place that respects life. He praised the woman for doing what was truly right. He turned to the manager next, stripping every layer of false pride with quiet honesty. And suddenly, power didn't feel like authority anymore. It felt like justice finally waking up inside the room, preparing to decide who deserved to stay, where kindness was meant to matter most.
The story didn't need shouting to understand what came next. The owner announced calmly but unshakably that kindness would never again be punished under his roof. The manager, who had worn arrogance like armor, now stood small beneath truth and consequence. His title didn't protect him anymore. He was removed, not out of anger, but because a place that feeds people could never be led by someone who didn't understand hunger, dignity, or mercy. The staff exhaled in quiet relief, learning that silence had cost them something too, and they wouldn't forget it again. Then the owner turned toward the woman who had once walked out in tears. He restored her job, not as pity, but as respect. He raised her position, ensured stability, and thanked her for reminding